Hey y'all, welcome to Maui Mysteries, the channel that brings you interdimensional content, which means that the readings are from a broad and expansive point of view, as they are channeled through vast dimensions of space and time, and therefore should resonate with you guys whenever you come across them. So, if you've been on the channel long enough, you know that sometimes, I mean, rarely, but I tell these stories that are unfinished and then I like never finish them. Yeah, I'm about to do that again. So, I'm going to tell you guys a story. So, right. Gwasuke. Garangane wa Garangan. Once upon a time, there was this lady, right? And she was married, but it was hard for her to like have children. It wasn't because she can't physically have children, and it wasn't because her husband couldn't physically have children. I guess it was just a thing of like meeting of the energies, but also as we talk, maybe there was another factor. Like let's get into the story. Now that I think about it, I'm like, hey, but actually, yeah. So anyway, like this lady was very much like spiritually inclined. So she was in touch with her guides. She was connected to what we would say, like, she was connected to that which is divine in her reality, and what I mean by saying that is that she was able to kind of reach through the veil and communicate with her ancestors herself. She was able to communicate with entities that helped her with different aspects of her life, be it her beauty aspect, be it her business aspect, be it her love aspect. She was actually married to a really good man, like, took care of her, like, did anything that would give her pleasure type of thing. He wasn't like perfect. I mean, neither was she, but it was a good match. So at some point she connected with this ancient entity, and this entity would teach her certain high frequency like spiritual concepts, so her consciousness like really expanded. I mean, she already had an expanded like state of consciousness. She was already living in a higher state of being. So was her partner. That's why I'm saying they were very nicely matched. But with the addition of this entity, she entered a whole new level, like a whole new realm. Like, this entity would connect her to these like hidden like truths and hidden knowledge, and with her awareness and ability to put together certain concepts and form a picture that would obviously then expand her consciousness. Basically, this entity was all about that, right? And then I guess at some point, like, it came to the issue of the inability to have a child, and the entity, I guess, suggested that they would help her with that. And this involved like sexual relations between her and the entity. And I know that when we talk about that, we immediately, especially in South Africa, we think like this gross thing of like this snake, and I slept, and when I woke up I was sticky and it was weird and like all non-consensual. Like, no, this isn't that. This isn't like that at all. This was like there's this book called like Ghost Dick that I've been wanting to read and I haven't read it. And I'm thinking, I'm sure if I had read that book, I would have a better way of explaining this. I'm sure. I mean, but it's basically like that. It's like, oh, okay. And I should mention, right? Like, the way in which this entity appeared, because I think this is an important thing to mention. This entity was draconian in nature, like, so I guess like reptilian. So it would appear to this lady how she perceives things, like people that she desires, people that she trusts. That's basically what this entity would do. So, like, if she is like feels safe around a tall, dark, handsome man, then it would appear as that. If she is feeling like she would feel comfortable around a like a young lady, like who is talkative and whatnot, then that's what the entity would appear as. And they were at some point this lady thought she was interacting with different entities, but she was actually just interacting with this one like entity the whole time. So when it came to the whole sexual relations, basically, I mean, this entity just projected an image of like the kind of person this lady would have a crush on or something like that. So it was kind of like, think of it as like having sexual relations with a ghost, but you're able, like the movie, y'all know that old ass movie with, is his name Patrick? What's his name? Patrick Swayze? Is that his name? With Demi Moore? I think it's called Ghost. It's got Whoopi Goldberg. It's a really old movie, but like that, fam, like that, like that. So this is no weird shit with like, oh, snake between my legs in the middle of the night. Like, no, 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 no. And like, yeah, no, it's not like that. This was like build up love story. I mean, she was practically having an affair with an entity. That's literally what she was doing. So by the time the entity like recommended that they should do this and the entity would be able to give her a child this way, for her it was like perfect solution because she doesn't actually have to go outside of her marriage and like, let's say, cheat like with someone physical and actually bring someone else's child into her marriage, anything like that. For her, she justified it with like, it's not really cheating because he's not like a physically dense being, it's an entity, it's not even like that, like it's cool, right? And then it happened, and then she got pregnant. And then obviously, like literally, she's technically physically in a physically material dense way, she's only sleeping with her husband. So obviously it's like, hello, it's her husband's child, bro. But it's not. It's not though. So and then like throughout the pregnancy it was weird. She actually, it's almost as if her, firstly, the minute she got pregnant, the entity kind of like disappeared. Like it wouldn't come to her anymore, like there was no longer communication with that entity, but she was still able to do her own, live her magical life, her spiritually inclined life. Like she was still able to heal herself, like speak love into her cooking for her husband, like fill their home with like warmth and sensuality and like all the nice things. If he had trouble at work, she would be able to like draw him a bath, like put in some oils, and like that would help. But she was still able to do all that. But she noticed how during her pregnancy, it was like all of that was, what's the word? Was amplified. All of that was amplified. It was like she was she was like goddess level. She could almost feel like different dimensions, like just sitting there. It would be like she could like, she wouldn't have to like do that thing before where she would have to focus or like whatever. Like no, whatever she needed at that time, like that dimension would open up and that knowledge from that dimension would come through, and she would know what to say in a situation or what to do in a situation. Like it was just her power was like so amplified. It was lit. So at some point, so until like close to the end of the pregnancy where she was about to give birth, then she started getting kind of sick. She started feeling unwell. It was almost as if the life was actually like being drained out of her, like and so forth. And like her doctor, like her gynae, or what do you guys call it in the state? Oh, yeah, that one, OBGYN, OBG, is it an OBGYN, whatever, a gynecologist, like her baby doctor. no, a gynecologist is a vagina doctor, but you get what I'm saying. Like, was like, no, like she should be fine, her vitals are fine, everything is fine. Like, we don't know why like this is. It could be like um like a pre traumatic stress disorder like type of thing, like where you might be afraid. It's, it's your first child, maybe you're afraid and you're stressed, and like it is manifesting as like the sickness. But she was like, no, I'm not. So she had other friends that were like also spiritually kind and healers and stuff like that, right? And so she was like calling them over and be like, yo, can you just check me out, like energetically, like scan me, because I'm not okay and I don't know what's going on. And the friend was basically saying, the friend asked her, like, the friend did like an energetic scan on her, like kind of like a Reiki type of thing. And friend was like, friend, who is the father of your child? And she was like, why would you ask that? That doesn't even make sense. Like, why would you ask that? And the friend was like, because there seems to be like this hold on your child, kind of like this connection with this child and this other like entity. So like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? And so basically they like, she got so afraid, this lady, mother to be, she got so afraid. And the friend also kind of like encouraged her fear, not out of like bad intent, just, or you know just misaligned intent more than anything, kind of wanting to protect her friend and her baby and not knowing how, and just being afraid at that point. And they decided to do this like ritual to kind of protect the child from this entity, because now she was afraid. She hadn't seen or spoken to this entity ever since she had gotten pregnant. So she was like, okay, maybe she had done something wrong. Maybe like she was just scared. Maybe the entity wants to take the baby or something like that. Like maybe she had entered into one of those weird like deals with the devil where it's like, I'll give you whatever you want, give me your firstborn child. She was like, maybe she got into that or something. So they were like doing this ritual to protect the child, like blah 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 blah, right? And then, okay, cool. Eventually, she gives birth to this beautiful baby, and the baby is healthy, and everything is fine, and she's happy, and everything is cool. Like honestly, like her and her husband live happily ever after. She was able to have other kids after like this child, and everything. It was completely the child was gorgeous. Like gorgeous child, good at everything that they touch. Like a bit aloof, not nonchalant, just aloof. Like kept to themselves, but also very curious child, observant, and sometimes seeming to be unaffected. Again, not nonchalance, just this strange detachment type of thing. But yeah, other than that, it's like normal child, great. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to tell you what was happening behind the scenes, you guys. So, like, basically, this entity, yeah, this doesn't fit into the story anyhow, but I'm going to tell you what was happening behind the scenes. So, this entity, like, so one of the ways in which entities are able to feel life as people do, like physically, is like somehow being birthed. Mm, mm, mm. Sometimes I be saying shit that I'm like, you really gonna talk about that shit right now? Are you serious? Do you have no respect for forbidden shit? Like, no, I'm just touching the surface. I'm just touching the surface. So, like, one of the only ways in which entities can interact in like this physical realm is obviously through a human being, because human beings allow access to actual things like the feeling of desire, the feeling of whatnot, like, well, the material, how it feels like in our bodies. Do you know what I mean? And the only ways in which an entity can do that is if you like share a body, maybe. or it somehow got birthed. So this entity basically wanted to, I don't want to say use this lady, because it will be as if the entity didn't care about the lady. And like, I feel like it did. It did. It really did. It's just that, it also had its own plans. So the whole time, the entity basically just wanted to be birthed by this lady. This lady figures that that's the reason why she couldn't speak to the entity after she fell pregnant, because the baby she was pregnant with was the entity. She had basically given the entity the ability to be born with a physical body. I hear all the questions like, no, but Zan, how was she? There's certain things, guys, I can't say. You must fill in your own gaps. That's also what expansion of consciousness is about. And yeah, it's just a story, by the way. It's just a story. So it's just a story. So you can fill in gaps however you like, because it's just a story. That's how expansion of consciousness works. You must fill in your own gaps and story, in the narrative. So basically figure it out. So this entity basically just wanted to be birthed into a physical body, and one of the ways in which to do that was like basically um impregnate this lady with itself. And when these guys are there fucking doing a like protection ritual like for this baby, they actually did more of a binding ritual, because the baby is the entity. Because they were basically, and what they did was actually quite interesting, because they kind of separated the human template of the baby with the entity template of the entity, and the entity basically. So this poor child still had to go through certain initiations even after they were born, because of the so-called protection ritual, which is actually a binding ritual for the entity part of the baby, because they didn't know that the entity is actually the baby. So the kid grows up thinking, obviously, I'm just human, blah, 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 blah. But obviously, because of the human template, the physical skin, like, yeah, basically you are kind of human until you find out you're more than human. And yeah. Welcome to stories that I don't finish, because they don't have an ending. So now I pull cards. Oh my God, look at the time, you guys. Why did you let me go on for that long? Not me, just swooshing my mic behind my. Oh, this is what happens. Okay. Ooh. I guess it's like having those two templates within yourself. I'm just going to call it two templates. It's kind of like two parts of yourselves in one body, right? Like this child now. Because it's ultimately this entity. But because it wanted to be born in human form, there's now another, right? The human template part. And I wonder if it had thought about that before. That you're not going to be able to access your power from the beginning, because you're first going to have to go through the human template, the human condition. And only if you transcend that human condition will you be able to tap into your power, right? I wonder if the entity like knew that. And I think we underestimate the story between two templates within a body. We underestimate that there is a story there. And I think it's mostly because in terms of the media that we're fed, or the social construct we're fed, that this other part of you is going to eat you. plain and simple. So your human template needs to shut down this other part of yourselves. That's why they talk about, I think, like shutting down the ego and crushing the ego, and you have a dark side that you have to get over. The light is what's important. Like you need to fight for the light, blah 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 blah. Basically, it's all like insinuating to never let this part of you see daylight. Because for a certain amount of time, and possibly forever, the human template is in charge simply because you're born into a human world, into a social construct which supports the human template. And so if you must develop your entity template, it must be in secret. And so spirituality was born to allow people to develop this other template. There's a whole story going on inside you. There's a whole narrative that you haven't given yourself access to. I'm not saying that your story is the story that I've just told. That story was told to activate this narrative that needs to be set free within yourself so that you can expand yourself enough to connect with other aspects of your being without being afraid. Or maybe to decide that you're never going down that route. I don't know, whichever. But obviously I was going for the possible expansion. And I guess that also speaks to like when I do like iNzunza readings and stuff like that. And even last year when I used to do the ones on YouTube, like I would feel this whole thing about sometimes people would be like, I want to do an iNzunza reading. I want to know what my iNzunza says. And then you come into the reading and your iNzunza's in a cage. I can hardly even see it. Like, it's just that you've been watching videos about this iNzunza thing and you're excited, but you don't understand that this is the part of yourself that you are afraid of. This is the part of yourself that is like, you keep chained and you talk to it ugly. It's the part of yourself that you talk to in an ugly way. Like, why did you do that? Now they're not gonna like us. You're so unlikable. I need to train you how to be lovable. That time, that part of you is love. Your human ass don't even know what love is. I say that with love. But honestly, all the cards I'm looking at you are talking about you opening that gate. You getting rid of that gap between these two templates. You making it one template and allowing yourself to live from the state of being. And all these cards, honestly, you've got the High Priestess, you've got the King of Swords, you've got the Moon, you've got the Magician, you've got Judgment, you've got Death. All these cards, honestly, it's like, it's really powerful and it's just speaking about you coming into your power. That sounded strange. But you get what I'm saying. Shit. There's something there though. You coming into your power. Isn't that interesting? Considering that like this entity, needed this lady in order to manifest itself into the physical realm. And so the DNA that's in this child, shit, that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's her DNA. He still gets to be with her, motherfucker. He still gets to be with her. He loves her. He loves her. He literally created her anew, but with him. And so ultimately, okay. Like I said, guys, all these like cards are quite empowering. Like you're in you're in an empowering state of being. And I know it might not feel like that for a lot of people, especially in the southern hemisphere. Like we're in winter. A lot of people are suffering from that seasonal depression. It's like, Zanne, I'm not fucking feeling empowered. And it's like, boom. Understand why though. It's because you're looking at everything through the previous version of yourself. Obviously that version of yourself is confused as fuck. Like, what's going on? Like, I need you to understand how certain things that are happening and your reaction to them is how the previous version of you would have reacted. I don't know if that makes sense. When you embody a new version of yourself, the memories of the old version of yourself remain. So this new version of yourself is kind of like, think of it as like an alien that just got into Earth, that just dropped, and, happens to be able to manifest a humanoid body, but doesn't yet know how to use it or react to certain human things. So to be honest, Utulile, the new version of you, is very quiet. And when things happen, it is the memory of the old version of you that keeps saying, oh no, not that. Oh no, it's winter, seasonal depression. Oh no, it's summer. I'm not thin enough. My hair is not long enough. Like, that's the memory of these past versions of yourself. So just watch, but also it would help for you to be able to be like, okay, so that's her memory of this season, or that's her memory of this person. She doesn't like this person. She is you. He is you. Oh, so that's his memory of how this partner feels about him. I don't know. Is this making sense? These Draconian readings are going to be the expose of me. So guys, that's what I have for you guys. If the reading resonates, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to book a personal reading or a mentorship session, all that information is in the description box. There's been changes to one of the prices in the description box, and there's an introduction of a Draconian reading. So yeah, make yourselves familiar. Alright guys, later.